board member. Welcome. In case you haven't been briefed, RIOC and Hudson Related are partners in the retail master lease of Main Street. With the exception of Westview, all of the other retail on Main Street is operated by Hudson Related for the benefit of Hudson Related and RIOC. We pay a sort of base rent to RIOC based upon the revenue RIOC previously had before the master lease, and then we share the upside. And so we periodically come for updates. Everybody's always interested in what's going on our retail corridor, and I'm here with, I'd say for the most part, very good news, starting with the fact that we just had a fairly triumphant block party this weekend. Show of hands who attended the block party and got their face painted or ate pancakes. Let me introduce some of my team members. Alex Kaplan from Hudson, Jamar Adams from Related, and our two retail gurus, Jillian Reed and James Richey. Jillian is a native islander who grew up in
River Cross.
And they've been on the team promoting Shops on Main and Shops on Main. And Jane and Jillian were the energy behind the block party that we just had. So as a quick update, we are in pretty good shape with the retail corridor. You may not know it in terms of everybody being open, but in terms of vacancies right now, we have 1.5 stores left to lease in Main Street. And those 1.5 are the former Bubble Tea store, formerly Main Street Suites. That's a small space, 568 square feet, which is, no, I think it's not the address. That's the address. Yeah, but it's a very similar amount of square footage. It's a small space. We had hoped when it was an ice cream store that we were suggesting it be frozen yogurt instead. Main Street Suite became the Bubble Tea, and that's our one space that is currently vacant. The half space that's vacant is the former urgent care. We are looking for a new formal tenant, but in the interim, Doctors Resnick and Grimm continue to operate out of the space. And Dr. Resnick's suggestion is that this would be a perfect space for a multi-practice specialty that would be overseen by a health system, something along the lines of a group practice where the dermatologist is there on Mondays, the chiropractor is there Tuesdays, but there's enough density on Roosevelt Island to support a, not one specific practice, but a multi-specialty practice. But that needs to be managed by a health system more than by Hudson Related, and we're going out to those types of tenants. We could, of course, go to other tenants that are non-medical, but the former urgent care spent time and effort and money building out their space for doctors' offices. And there should be doctors' offices on an island of 14,000 people, so we are hoping that we can find a more formal arrangement other than Doctors Resnick and Grimm continue to operate. So that's why I say we have 1.5 spaces that we are actively leasing, and besides that we have either tenants who are operating or tenants who are in the process of trying to open up. And so a brief update on where we are and when people are opening. 503 Main Street, which is the first space in River Cross, is hopefully going to open by the end of the year. It is going to be some type of restaurant food use. They're still finalizing their concept, but they've been under construction for a while, and I think they're in the home stretch. And that will be the first time that that space has actually ever been legally occupied. Judy, when was River Cross built?
It opened in 1975.
1975. So how long has it been vacant?
44
years. 44 years. So it's high time.
The concrete is dry. The plaster's dry.
It's high time 503 got an actual use. 521 Main Street, I think also hasn't been occupied in 44 years.
Cage, I think.
It was a batting cage. Does that count? And Island Ohm is going to be a yoga space that is going to be operated by Jax, our local yoga teacher who has been active on the island for years, and her space is also hopefully going to be open, Alex, end of the year, beginning of next year?
January, yeah.
And Jax was one of the people at, putting together yoga classes at our block party on Saturday. We have a tenant that I'm not going to announce yet for 563 Main Street, but that space is off the market.
Is that the Kansas?
I think that was the cards club. Yes, the cards club.
Yeah.
544, actually that's not even news, 544 is Pop Culture. They opened, it's very sweet to walk down Main Street and to see the dogs playing. I meant to go into Pub Culture on Saturday to buy a Halloween costume for my dog. I may do it after this meeting, provided we get out before midnight. 548 Main Street has been, we signed a lease a while ago, as my friends in the Roosevelt Island media have loved to remind me. It was a long time ago that we signed the lease, and we've been waiting patiently and then impatiently for the space to open. It was going to be Anda, a Mexican restaurant. They've now pivoted to a Mediterranean restaurant. Work has begun, permits have been issued, and Alex, we hope that that restaurant opens
Early spring.
early spring. And finally, further down the corridor at 568, Hot Pot opened, I would say, a couple months ago. So, you know, what we have is a corridor that is slowly finding its way, and a lot of work being done with spaces that haven't opened yet. I also would be remiss if I didn't mention the New York Public Library, which is in a race with the West Side Highway to see which can be the longest construction project. We signed the lease with the New York Public Library in the Lapin era, who was then replaced by Ben Kalos, who was just reelected, so it's been that long. But the library is going to open.
Let's call it summer.
Let's call it. They've been paying us rent for,
Yeah.
I'm guessing, 3 or 4 years. So we hope the library will open shortly. When they relocate, we'll have a space available to rent out. And we only want a great library to open to sort of be the gateway to the Main Street retail corridor. In Riverwalk, we just signed a lease with a new bar restaurant that's going to go by the name Granny Annie's. It is 3 partners who we've been very impressed by. 2 of the partners already have an operation in Woodside that we have seen, and that is very impressive. We met a lot of candidates for this space. Obviously, Riverwalk Bar and Grill had a few good years and then a few less good years, and we took the replacement of the space pretty seriously. We wanted to have a great operator. We wanted to have a bar on the island. We took, Alex, what do you say, 6 or 7 candidates very seriously.
Yeah.
It was a parade of due diligence, and these were the best candidates, and they are excited to come to the island. They have been working for the moment we signed the lease, and Granny Annie should open. Well, we just
I
signed
guess,
it, so
yeah.
these things.
Yeah, we need to review all their.
I mean, the truth of the matter is that it is hard to be a retailer. It's hard enough to compete with the internet. It's hard enough to compete on Roosevelt Island where it's quiet during the weekday. And then it's hard enough to do what's not your core business, which is hiring a contractor, getting permits, working with the Department of Buildings. I mean, the plumbing department alone cost $4K at NESA, you know, months and months and months with their inspections. And so it's hard to get this done. It's very expensive to do these build outs. It goes very slowly, and we try and do our best to support the retail tenants. And in fact, I'll talk a little bit about that in terms of what Julian and Jane's role has been. And then finally, we signed a lease with Mr. Frank Raphael, aka Turtle, who was here and waving. Turtle comes to us with a lot of experience, having previously worked at the Parks Department. And Turtle is one of the 15,000 nicknames Henry Stern came up with in his.
Number 2. Yeah.
And so Turtle is a Henry Stern nickname, and Turtle is a very experienced parks concessionaire. I've eaten at the New Leaf restaurant that he operates in Fort Tryon Park in Inwood. He operates concessions at Long Island City and Jones Beach. And in fact, even some Roosevelt Islanders came to us long before we started talking to Turtle, saying we should have what Long Island City has. So when it was time for the Day Spring Church to vacate, because they weren't performing as a tenant, we thought it should be a destination space, that 851 Main Street is off the beaten track, and that walking the space with Turtle on Saturday, I can't express how excited I am that this is finally going to be a place on Roosevelt Island where there can be weddings, where you can have an event and enjoy all of Roosevelt Island's amazing resources, because whether it's on Main Street or some of our spaces, there's no great space where you can have an experience and have the view and have the river and see the bridge. And as we were standing there, we thought this is going to be a great place for many weddings over many years. And if some of you have questions, I'll let Turtle handle that directly in terms of the future of the sanctuary, which is the name of his space. He had one event, sort of as a one-time permanent event this past Monday. I know some of you in the room were there.
Detected that a minimum number of lines are connected to this conference.
And we expect more great things from him in the future. Finally, let me ask Jillian and Jane to just say a few words. What we realized recently was that besides just being the leaseholder, we wanted to help our retail tenants succeed, and we wanted to figure out a way to make sure that what has been somewhat of a natural siloization of the islands of Cornell Tech, Riverwalk, the Wire buildings, Manhattan Park octagons, to try and break up some of those silos, particularly to get folks from Cornell Tech and Riverwalk who haven't been patronizing Main Street retail to give Main Street retail a second look. And so they were at the Cornell Tech Fair, and as a new crop of Cornell Tech students come every August, it's up to the Main Street retailers to put some energy into making sure everybody knows we're here. So Jillian, Jane, why don't you give us just a quick summary of some of the efforts you've been undertaking on behalf of retailers?
Sure. So we were hired by Hudson, as David said, to really help the individual businesses and as a
Hudson
group.
related.
Sorry, Hudson related.
Because when everybody says related, I always want to say Hudson related.
To really help the businesses with their marketing outreach, specifically to reach, island residents, and as David said, Cornell Tech and Riverwalk, and just bring people to the center of the island. We've done this in a number of ways. We're sort of in phase one of that, where we've established an online presence for Shops on Main and the businesses, and also, through a couple of events that took place at Cornell Tech, and then at the block party on Saturday. What am I missing? Everything.
The
What is the name of our
relationship
Instagram
building.
account?
Sorry?
What's the name of the Instagram?
Oh,
account?
yeah, so we're on Instagram at shopsonmain_RI. We're on Facebook at Shops on Main RI. And really, we're here to be advocates for the individual retail businesses. They're, overwhelmed with what's going on within their own businesses, and we're really here to help them with their outreach, their marketing outreach, and help reach, all of the people on the island, in the far reaches of the island as it's grown so much, and remind people that they're there, and really help boost their businesses through marketing.
I would just add that a lot of what we're doing is actually modeling for them as entrepreneurs of what they can do. We throw a block party, but we're showing them that they could also open their doors and get out more. We're starting Instagram, but as we do it, we're in there chatting with everyone, teaching them how to do it. So the idea is that we're working for them, they're learning from us, and together we all grow. We're also fostering relationships between the shop owners, because when they work together, they can make beautiful things happen. So, relationship.
Jillian and Jane put together great postcards for all of the spaces with great photography. So here's a picture of a bespoke cocktail, 2-for-1 cocktail in EC, to try and really promote the stores in a way that if we can be helpful and supplement all of the retailers' marketing efforts, that is, that's our goal. The pancake eating contest was a huge success. It was the brainchild of Jane and Alex from Nisi, and it was covered by New York One, and it could become an annual thing. because, you know, who doesn't like a good pancake contest? So with that, we're happy to take questions on the Main Street Retail Corridor.
One question, the wayfinding signs, are
Mhm.
they proving to be helpful?
I thought that was a different agenda item, but.
It will be.
It will be. Are they, I hope so. You know, that's a question for, you know, all of you as well as me. You know, I can see I observe people when they get off the tram, and they take pictures next to the RI signage, and they look at the wayfinding map, and, you know, it's crazy to think that we shouldn't have it, like, every mall and museum has a "you are here." New York City streets have have local maps. Every city you walk around, there's periodic maps. So Roosevelt Island absolutely, you know, has to have it, and I'm glad we have it. And now that we have it, we have to update the maps, the wayfinding, because there are new stores, and the Sanctuary and Jupioka, you know, all want to be part of the wayfinding. We still haven't. I still wouldn't declare victory. We are not yet successful at connecting tourists coming on the tram and people checking out the rest of the island and shopping at Main Street Retail. And
So
wayfinding is a part of
when we
that.
have the tram station elevator completed, and that project, that construction project is done, then maybe take some consideration of information on the Manhattan side.
I've always thought the Manhattan side was a missed opportunity that we haven't tackled yet because it's in transition, but that's when you have a captive audience waiting for the tram, and if they know, oh, I could, you know, see all of these neat things along the way, they don't just like walk out of the tram, take a look around, take their, you know, Instagrammable photo in front of the letters, and then get back on the tram. And, you know, ideally you want to have them go to Four Freedoms parts of the south and Lighthouse parts of the north and everything in between.
I think we've also tried, and I think it was your idea, Terrence, to market the free red bus when you get onto the tram. There's not many places that have a free bus, and so I think we now have on the tram advertising the free, you know, see the island on the free red bus.
Yeah. Hop on, hop off. It's all free.
Any questions from the board member?
I'm still after the bead concession. We've had all these people from other places, and it's like we are what the tourists look at. So I want the bead and the war dance concession. We're talking about that with you. Now, what did I just say? I said maybe we don't want to become objects for tourists to look at. Maybe.
We have some people in the community.
I am the community. Okay, two things. First of all, I wish your restaurants and food places would get a health department inspection before they open up. In the last three, the Mongolian restaurant and one other, had no health department certification. And that's, I mean, I know it's not went through before he opened, but it's not right to open a food service establishment and have no concept of the health department rules. Secondly.
Wait, let's go with that first.
Okay, yeah.
So we are, you know, what is our role as retail landlord?
You're the landlord.
So we want our tenants to comply with all applicable law. On one hand, on the other hand, we're not Big Brother and making sure that they are washing their hands every time they leave the restroom. But what is actually helpful, whether it's you or the other websites, is that when we find out about something, then that gives us good information to call them up and say like, hey, you know, where's your effing permit for this and that, and that actually helps give us ammunition as the landlord. We have a club. You know, there are a million places in the lease that if they're not applying with applicable law, we have leverage over them. So sometimes we don't necessarily know it, and actually it was the eyes and the ears of the community giving Hot Pot a hard time that led to Hot Pot, you know, making sure that that didn't happen again.
Excuse postcards and I'll give them out with the citizens.
100%. Absolutely.
Okay,
Absolutely, we should have them in the visitor center. Like literally, we
Because
just.
people, you don't know how many people we send to leasing, because where can I eat? So, you know, it's.
Yeah, yeah, you should.
And that's not a recommendation.
You're welcome.
I wouldn't recommend anybody eat there.
Hi, two quick questions. First one, are there any ideas or projects that maybe also for RIOC, to to put more light in Main Street, because the night time, especially during winter, is a dead area.
Use a
And
flashlight.
we've been talking about that at
Excuse
the
me.
River Gallery, and one of the problems we have is that there's very few lights in
Yeah.
the Main Street.
Use a flashlight.
Hey, I second that. We, our jurisdiction ends at the storefront door. And in fact, you know, River Cross, it makes very, very sure that, anything we wanna do on the exterior of the building, whether it's signage or anything else, you know, that, remind us that that's their building. So our jurisdiction doesn't include the streets, the sidewalks, the lighting. So that's a good question for RIOC or the individual buildings.
Who does control the streets, the sidewalks?
We do,
the sidewalks?
we do, it's
You
in
do.
operations.
Yeah, because, you know, one of the things that jumps out at me is, you know, the opportunity, those are wide sidewalks. Presumably that gives opportunity for retail activity
Yeah, and
outside the stores.
And there are city programs that actually sort of take over
Encourage
some of
that.
those spaces and
Right.
encourage it. And, you know, what was amazing about Saturday was that, when you have activity and you have people on the streets, and the sidewalks can accommodate, you know, a lot of people, it gives a whole buzz to the
Absolutely.
neighborhood
Right.
in a way that Main Street could use a little buzz.
Because, you know, I understand the interest in drawing traffic from New York, from the other side of the river to Roosevelt Island. But we have 14,000 of us living here. You know, I think we should also be looking at what we can do for ourselves.
Right, no, the bigger problem for Main Street retail, and this was discovered before we were even selected, RIOC, commissioned a study, and that study, this goes back to 2012, said that, you know, 80 cents of every retail dollar for people on the island is spent off island.
Right.
That basically retail is not on anybody's radar.
Right.
So before they get on the tram, they grab some, you know, they walk into a store, they grab dinner, and so, you know, I keep on thinking that at some point, the Main Street corridor needs to tip back where it becomes much more
Local.
relevant to the people who live here. And, you know, we failed if the people who live in our buildings in Riverwalk don't think it's worth a, you know, 6-minute walk, to go have breakfast in DC or to go, you know, to the other stores. And so, you know, we have our work cut out for us, and our hope is that when each space is leased and we have stronger operators and better stores and better goods and services, that the customers on the island will return. And, you know, one of our challenges has been finding strong operators who have some deeper pockets that are not like living month to month, and that can do a good job. Because the strong operators who do a good job, they don't come to me every month saying you're killing me, because, you know, they run good operations.
I second the inquiry from the fellow from Greenville. I'm sorry, I forgot your name.
Alex,
Alex, yes.
actually, Main Street Wire.
You know, and suggest that, you know, that perhaps there are things that RIOC could be doing to help improve the infrastructure outside those stores in a way that attracts commerce.
Going back to the hygiene in restaurants, I want to point out that not only they need to clean inside, but also keep the rats away. Especially if they bought doors that are rat-proof, they need to close them. They don't need to leave a little bit open like this, so the rats are well fed. I can tell you because I see them every day from the garden that's behind the church, walking to the base plantings of my building. The community has a lot of rats, in case you didn't hear it. That's all.
Thank you.
When I take that up, operations also, where that's on RIOC to control, all the.
You know, it's constant, you know, these issues are constant vigilance, and, you know, as the retail landlord, we have some leverage, but then it's also up to the individual stores.
I told this retailer to close his doors many times. It doesn't happen. It doesn't happen. And also, he never heard
of chlorine. You need to look at the floor.
All right, well, since you don't wanna, identify the retailer publicly, why don't you talk to Alex after the meeting and give us your 2 cents and we can see if we can be helpful.
Not only that, removing the garbage from a restaurant keeps the newly finished plaza around the church, which is so beautiful. It has a continuous stain of fat and grease that becomes black.
I'd be happy to talk.
I walk on it every day.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. I just
We
want to
mentioned
not
that,
in a corner.
the people who have concerns in the community, RIOC is a point of contact that's kind of central to all our operations. And if RIOC received information and complaints of this sort, we would reach out to our partner and see what leverage could be from both sides, and also from the maintenance that we provide and the groundskeeping that we provide generally throughout the island. So people in the community need to be reminded somehow that we remain a point of active contact, and we should keep on message that this is one way that complaints can be brought forward. So, Archie?
I don't know if this is for you or Turtle, but have you guys considered that open pier that goes out right across from you, having in the summer some outdoor activity? Because your building, the sanctuary, reminds me of an old area where I grew up, where in the winter, everybody went in there and it was terrific, and you did that for formal things. But in the summer, they opened an outside area as like a clam bar and, ice cream, and it's so close, it would just be.
You're absolutely right.
It would be perfect.
Yeah, I
You're
mean,
absolutely
we
right.
tell me your name, sorry?
Margie.
Marty. We certainly plan on using as much of the outdoor space as we could. I mean, first of all, let me say I'm super happy, my partner Tom's right next to me. We're super happy to be on the island, thank you so much. Everyone has been super kind. Many of you have stopped by to ask me what's going on, give words of advice, teach me about the island. I've been in New York 46 years, Queens and Manhattan, but I never lived on the island. I never worked on the island, I'm very familiar with the island, but it's very different to be familiar with the island and then live here or work here, or business here. And I'm learning it, and I know there'll be some hiccups along the way. I think a lot of people, I recognize a lot of faces here who come to me and who give me some guidance, so I appreciate that, including this. So certainly we plan on using the outdoor area as much as we possibly can.
But not just right around
For
here.
sure,
I mean,
on the pier, it's
that
beautiful.
pier that goes all the way out
Yeah.
there. I don't
You mean the
even know what
RIOC
that-
property?
Exactly, that's what I'm gonna,
Yeah. RIOC property.
a lot of the property, obviously, we're figuring out the lines, and I've met with the RIOC recently, thank you very much, by the way, to really go over, where the property lines are and where they aren't, and what we can or can't do, what we should or shouldn't do, and not so much based on the legality of it, what's really appropriate for the space and for the community. As much of the outdoor areas we can use, we will use. I think, obviously, as David rightly mentioned, the views from the spot are tremendous. It's amazing to be able to open up that area for people to enjoy, whether it be for a wedding or a bite to eat. We certainly envision lots of people from the island coming there for a meal. We certainly do want some people to venture, who aren't from the island, to stop by and see what's going on at the space. And I think the outdoor area really lends itself very readily to enjoy the people. So the short answer is, as much as we possibly can use without encroaching on the beautiful RIOC property. We don't want to do that.
We have an excellent permitting process.
Done.
That's exactly what I was thinking, because
We
did
like
it on
permits,
the other end,
yes.
down here,
For sure.
Riverwalk area, and there would be grants.
Yeah, no, it needs to be an operator who already has a base.
Right, they're so close, and that was the problem before the
Jonathan
other
had
guys.
tried to do that, but Hurricane James screwed it all up.
Yeah.
He had momentum for 1 year and then he lost it, but yeah, I mean, if there's a successful operator who has a base, and then can talk to RIOC about some of the outdoor space, that would be great.
In the day, the board wants you to succeed.
Thank you.
We really do. So if we can figure out how how facilitate that, we'll do what we can. There's a lot of interesting development we can do there. It'd also be a great work with the permitting folks for like movie sets and like that'll be some great shots once you're building it. It's all cleaned up and.
Appreciate that.
Yeah, and to add to what Turtle said, he brought me out here about 6 months or 8 months ago to see the space, and immediately I was taken. It's just it's a spectacular corner of the earth, and as a lifelong New Yorker, I'm blessed to be able to help bring the space back alive. And I think, you know, it'll be a phased approach. We came in with some buckets of paint, and we've done some cleanup, and we have a big vision for what it can be, and I think the hope is that, we wanted to make it so that it would be a space that, that can be open for, for community events, for weddings, for things, and then as we get further along, obviously we're going into winter, so it becomes a little bit less hospitable, but the hope is that, as we move forward, that we can continue to do more, and we'll figure out, with people on the island, with people who have interest, sort of what it can be, but we understand what a spectacular location it really is, and we really hope to make it a wonderful place to have people build amazing memories.
And we, and 100%. We also understand how important the location is for Roosevelt Island. We understand that. We understand that it is an historic building. We understand that there's a lot of emotions, good emotions about the spot, and we want to respect that. I mean, I can tell you that the space was pretty dilapidated, is put it very kindly, what it looked like inside. And we spent a lot of time, love, effort, and the two of us with a couple more people really trying to bring it back to life. And we're very proud of what we've done so far, and it's only a speck of what we'll be doing in the space. So, but we will say, we'll preface it by saying everything we do, we will do our best to respect the legacy. Judy's been very great with really teaching us about the history and legacy of the space. It's very important to us as lifelong New Yorkers, and you see some of the properties that we've opened, including New Leaf Restaurant that David mentioned. We same thing there, that we do respect the space, and we do want to activate it and have people enjoy it.
We can't wait.
Thank you very much, appreciate it.
I'm going to thank Dave Kramer for his presentation, and then I'm going to change the order of our agenda slightly, to bring
Call it an
up
audible.
the RI sign.
Okay, great.
Which was before this committee